Coming home from deployment, I found my driveway empty. My brother Tyler shrugged. I needed quick cash, so I sold your car for $500 while you were gone. That's when the BMW pulled up. The dust of Afghanistan was still fresh in my lungs when that taxi dropped me off at my childhood home in San Antonio. 8 months of deployment, 8 months of dodging IEDs, and counting down days until I could drive my beloved 2018 Dodge Challenger again. I'd saved for 3 years to buy that car, working double shifts at the base motor pool, skipping meals, and living in the barracks to afford it. $23,000 of my own money for that metallic blue beauty, with racing stripes I'd added myself, custom exhaust system, and upgraded interior that made it truly mine. But there I stood, still in my ACUs with my duffel bag at my feet, staring at an empty driveway where my car should have been. The concrete pad still showed oil stains where I'd parked it 8 months ago, a ghost outline of what I'd lost. The sheer audacity of what Tyler had just told me hit like shrapnel to the chest. That familiar sensation of everything going wrong at once that I knew too well from combat. My younger brother had emerged from the house avoiding eye contact, hands shoved deep in his pockets, wearing a brand new gaming headset around his neck and sporting fresh tattoos on his forearms that definitely hadn't been there when I left. He'd casually destroyed my world with a shrug, the same dismissive gesture he'd used to blow off chores, responsibilities, and consequences his entire life. "You sold my car?" My voice cracked with disbelief, the words barely making it past the rage building in my throat. "The one I specifically asked you to maintain while I was deployed? The one I left detailed instructions for, with money for insurance and maintenance?" "I maintained it by turning it into something useful," he said with that infuriating smirk I remembered from childhood. "Rent money. Times are tough, man. Not all of us get government paychecks and free housing." The words stung like acid, but what hit deeper was the casual indifference, the complete lack of understanding of what that car represented. I'd dreamed of coming home to normalcy, to the simple pleasure of driving my own car down familiar streets, feeling the rumble of that V8 engine and remembering what freedom felt like. Instead, I faced my brother's complete lack of respect for everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd endured in that desert hellscape. "How much?" I managed to ask, though I already knew the answer would destroy me. 500. The number hit me like a physical blow. 500? Tyler, that car was worth 23,000. I still have the paperwork, the loan documents, the insurance appraisal. "Yeah, well, I needed money fast. Take it or leave it deals, you know." He turned to go back inside, then paused with that same smirk that had gotten him out of trouble our entire childhood. "Oh, and before you get all high and mighty, you should know I used your power of attorney, the one you signed before deployment, so technically it was all legal. Power of attorney, the document I'd signed as a precaution in case something happened to me overseas. I'd given it to him for emergencies, to handle things if I got wounded or killed in action, not to steal from me while I was dodging bullets and IEDs. The betrayal cut deeper than any enemy fire I'd faced in Kandahar, deeper than the shrapnel scar on my shoulder, or the nightmares that still woke me up screaming. What Tyler didn't know was that he'd just declared war on someone with significant advantages he couldn't comprehend. I'm Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, but more importantly, I'm a logistics coordinator for military operations with 8 years of active duty experience. My entire career revolves around resource management, strategic planning, and coordinating complex operations under pressure. I know how to analyze systems, identify weak points, and execute methodical responses to crisis situations. I've managed supply chains worth millions of dollars, coordinated multi-unit operations across hostile territory, and solved problems that would break civilian managers. My military training had taught me to assess threats systematically, gather intelligence, and respond with overwhelming force when necessary. Tyler had just made himself a hostile target, and he had no idea what kind of response capability he was facing. Financially, I was in a far stronger position than Tyler realized. 8 months of deployment pay with minimal expenses had boosted my savings account to $47,000 in liquid assets. My combat pay exclusion meant most of that income was tax-free. I also had $89,000 in my thrift savings plan, excellent credit from years of responsible financial management, and automatic enrollment in legal assistance programs through the military that gave me access to resources Tyler couldn't imagine. Most critically, I understood military law and the specific protections afforded to deployed service members under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. I'd seen other soldiers get screwed over by family members and knew exactly what legal remedies were available. I had contacts in the JAG Corps, relationships with military lawyers, and access to veteran advocacy organizations that specialized in exactly this type of fraud. Tyler, on the other hand, was a 28-year-old who still lived at home, bounced between dead-end retail jobs, had never held steady employment for more than 6 months, and apparently thought he could commit federal fraud against a combat veteran with zero consequences. He'd made a tactical error that would cost him everything, and he was too stupid to realize it. I was already running calculations in my head, assessing my options with the same methodical precision I used to plan supply convoys. Tyler had committed multiple felonies, left a paper trail, and chosen the worst possible victim. He'd made this personal, and I had both the resources and the expertise to destroy him completely. Before I could formulate my response strategy, a silver BMW 3 Series pulled up to the curb with dealer plates still attached. A woman stepped out, early 30s, wearing a professional navy blazer despite the Texas heat that had to be pushing 90 degrees. Her posture was unmistakably military, shoulders back, purposeful stride, eyes scanning the situation with tactical awareness. Even before I noticed the JAG Corps insignia on her leather briefcase, I knew she was one of us. "Staff Sergeant Thompson?" she asked, approaching with the kind of purpose that meant business. "Yes, ma'am." "I'm Captain Diana Rodriguez, JAG Corps. I'm the buyer and also a military lawyer." She looked at Tyler, who had frozen on the porch steps like a deer in headlights. "Selling a deployed soldier's property without proper authorization is a federal offense under the Service Members Civil Relief Act." Tyler's smugness evaporated instantly, replaced by the kind of panic I'd seen on insurgents' faces when they realized they had walked into an ambush. "What? But I had power of attorney. That makes it legal, right?" "Power of attorney doesn't give you the right to commit fraud," Captain Rodriguez said, with the cool precision of a prosecutor who'd handled hundreds of similar cases. She opened her folder, revealing a stack of documents that made my head spin. "When I went to register the vehicle, I discovered you were deployed. I've been investigating this for 2 weeks." She turned toward Tyler with the systematic approach of someone building a criminal case. "Your brother advertised this as his car on multiple platforms: Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Auto Trader. He told me he needed quick cash for medical bills, claimed he was selling because of a family emergency. I have screenshots of all the posts, copies of the fraudulent title transfer he attempted, and digital recordings of our entire transaction." "Recordings?" Tyler's voice pitched higher, cracking like it had when he was 12 and got caught stealing from Mom's purse. "Texas is a one-party consent state," she said simply, pulling out a small digital recorder. "I consent to recording my own conversations, standard practice when I suspect fraud." I sank onto the porch steps, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events. This was better than anything I could have planned myself. "Why would you do this? Why investigate instead of just keeping the car?" Captain Rodriguez sat beside me, her expression softening with genuine empathy. "My brother was deployed to Iraq in 2007 with the 82nd Airborne. While he was gone, his girlfriend sold everything he owned, his car, his motorcycle, his tools, even his dog, cleaned out his apartment and disappeared with some guy she'd been seeing. By the time he found out, she'd vanished and he had no legal recourse. Nobody helped him. He came home to nothing." She paused, her jaw tightening with old anger. "I swore if I ever encountered something similar, I'd act. When your brother's story didn't add up, I started digging. Military personnel deserve protection, especially from their own families." She handed me another document with official FBI letterhead. "I've already filed a report with the FBI's white-collar crime division. Fraud against military personnel during deployment is something they take very seriously. There's a whole task force dedicated to these cases." Tyler stumbled backward, his face going pale. "FBI? Are you insane? I'm his brother. This is family business." I looked at him, really looked at him. At 28, Tyler still lived at home, still expected Mom to do his laundry, still blamed everyone else for his problems. While I was getting shot at in Afghanistan, coordinating supply runs through hostile territory and keeping soldiers alive, he was stealing from me. The choice became crystal clear. "No," I said quietly, standing up to face him. "It's not a family thing. It's a crime, a federal crime." Captain Rodriguez continued with systematic precision, laying out the case like the experienced prosecutor she was. The Service Members Civil Relief Act provides specific protections for deployed personnel. Any contracts, sales, or legal proceedings involving a deployed service member's property require court approval or explicit consent. Your brother didn't just break civil law. He committed wire fraud by using electronic communications to perpetrate the scheme, identity theft by misrepresenting ownership, and forgery by signing documents he had no authority to sign. "This is insane," Tyler shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "It's just a car. It's not like I killed someone." "It's not just a car," I stood up, anger finally breaking through my shock. "It's trust. It's respect. It's the one thing I asked you to take care of while I was risking my life for this country. It's 3 years of savings, 3 years of sacrifice, and you sold it for beer money." Our mother appeared in the doorway, having heard the commotion from inside, where she'd been watching her afternoon soap operas. "What's happening? Marcus, you're home." Her joy at seeing me faded instantly as she took in the scene. Me in uniform, a strange woman with official documents, and Tyler looking like he was about to throw up. "What's wrong?" "Ask Tyler," I said flatly, my voice carrying the kind of command authority I'd developed leading soldiers in combat. As Tyler stammered through his explanation, trying to minimize what he'd done and make excuses, Mom's face went through a progression I'd never seen before: confusion, disbelief, horror, and finally a fury that made her look like a completely different person. "You sold your brother's car while he was serving our country?" Her voice rose to a pitch I'd never heard before. "Tyler James Thompson, what is wrong with you? How could you do something so evil?" "Everyone's acting like I murdered someone," Tyler whined, falling back on the victim mentality that had gotten him out of consequences his entire life. "It's just money. It's not that big a deal." "Which you don't have," Captain Rodriguez noted sharply, consulting her notes. "Where's the $500 you received for the vehicle?" Tyler's silence was answer enough, but Mom filled in the blanks. "Spent," Mom said, her voice hollow with realization. "He's been buying gaming equipment, new clothes, those tattoos." She trailed off, but I caught her glance at Tyler's new sleeve tattoo that probably cost more than he'd gotten for my car. Captain Rodriguez stood, all business again, her voice taking on the formal tone of someone delivering legal options. "Staff Sergeant Thompson, you have several options available. We can pursue criminal charges through the FBI, which could result in your brother facing up to 20 years in federal prison for wire fraud, plus additional charges for identity theft and forgery. The federal sentencing guidelines are quite severe for fraud against military personnel." She flipped to another page in her folder. "Or you can pursue civil remedies to recover the full value of the vehicle plus punitive damages, legal fees, and compensation for emotional distress. Given the circumstances, you could easily recover $50,000 to $70,000 in a civil suit." She paused, then smiled slightly with the satisfaction of someone who'd planned this perfectly. "Or we can start with the plan I've already set in motion. I never completed the title transfer. Your car is currently in my garage at my home on base, waiting for its rightful owner." My knees nearly buckled with relief. The emotional whiplash from despair to hope was almost too much to handle. "You kept it? You actually kept my car?" "I told your brother I needed a few days to arrange financing through my credit union," she explained with obvious satisfaction. "Then I started investigating. Your Challenger is safe, though it needs some maintenance. Your brother apparently thought oil changes were optional, and there are some minor issues that need attention." Tyler exploded with desperate fury. "You can't do this! We had a deal! I'll sue you for breach of contract. This is entrapment." "Please do," Captain Rodriguez said calmly, her smile widening. "I'd love to present this evidence in civil court too. However, the criminal investigation will proceed regardless of any civil action. The FBI takes a very dim view of people who prey on deployed service members, and this case has all the elements they love to prosecute. Over the next 2 hours, Captain Rodriguez walked me through everything Tyler had done, building a comprehensive picture of premeditated fraud that was far worse than I'd imagined. He'd forged my signature on multiple documents, used my power of attorney to attempt accessing my bank accounts, though thankfully I'd locked most of them before deployment, and even tried to sell my motorcycle before discovering I'd stored it at my buddy Jake's house across town. The pattern of behavior suggests this wasn't impulsive, she explained, showing me printed screenshots of his various online posts. He planned this systematically, waited until you were deployed and couldn't respond, then executed it, thinking you'd never find out or couldn't do anything about it from overseas. He even researched the power of attorney laws to make sure he could claim it was legal. She showed me his Craigslist posts, dating back to just 2 weeks after I'd deployed. He's been planning this for months, Marcus. This wasn't desperation or a moment of weakness. This was calculated theft. Mom sat in the corner, crying silently as the full scope of Tyler's betrayal became clear. This wasn't the homecoming any of us had imagined, but it was revealing truths that needed to come to light. As Captain Rodriguez prepared to leave, she handed me a business card with multiple contact numbers. "The car's at my office on base. Come by tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we'll transfer it back properly. And Marcus, I volunteer with the Veterans Legal Aid Society. If you need help pursuing this case, we have resources available. Pro bono, legal representation, counseling services, whatever you need." She paused at the door, looking back at Tyler with professional contempt. "You should know that I've already contacted the local district attorney's office as well. They're very interested in this case. Fraud against military families is a priority prosecution area." After she left, the house felt different, smaller, poisoned by the betrayal that had been festering while I was overseas. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Tyler finally broke. "You're really going to let them arrest me?" Tyler asked, all bravado gone, his voice small and scared like when we were kids and he'd broken something valuable. "Tyler, you committed multiple felonies against your own brother while he was in a combat zone," I said, my voice steady with the kind of calm that comes after making a difficult decision. "You planned this for months. You stole from me while I was dodging bullets and IEDs. What did you think would happen?" "I was desperate," he pleaded, falling back on excuses that had worked when we were children. "No," Mom spoke up, her voice sharp with a fury I'd never heard before. "You were lazy and selfish and cruel. You've never been desperate a day in your life. You've had every advantage, every opportunity, and you threw it all away to steal from your brother." She stood, pointing to the door with a trembling finger. "Get out!" "Mom, you can't be serious." "Get out!" she screamed, her voice breaking with emotion. "You stole from your brother while he was risking his life for this country. You're not my son, not anymore. I don't know who you are, but you're not the boy I raised." Tyler looked at me, perhaps hoping for intervention, for the big brother who had always protected him to step in one more time. Instead, I turned away, unable to look at him anymore. He grabbed his keys and left, slamming the door behind him with the petulance of a child who'd finally faced real consequences. Within a month, the consequences cascaded exactly as Captain Rodriguez had predicted. Tyler was arrested on federal charges and pled guilty to avoid trial, receiving 5 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $30,000 in restitution. Mom sold the house and moved to Florida, unable to bear the shame of what had happened in our family. I got my Challenger back in perfect condition after some maintenance, and Captain Rodriguez became a close friend who helped me understand that Tyler's betrayal wasn't my fault. The FBI's investigation revealed he'd been planning this theft for months, researching laws and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike when I couldn't respond. Tyler writes occasionally from prison, letters full of self-pity and blame that I don't answer. He stole more than a car. He stole security, trust, and the comfort of coming home. But justice prevailed, and sometimes angels drive BMWs and carry law degrees.